I'm Hazel, it's Saturday again, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I've been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, a fresh week brought a fresh build to the 915 PTR with some tiny but very exciting highlights, at least I thought so. First of all, in patch 915, rescuing souls in Torghast will count towards your return lost soul Covenant quest, that 20 lost souls that we return every week, which I understand will also become repeatable in 915 to help assist with Covenant catch-up, especially if you're switching Covenants. You'll be able to get those souls in Torghast from the little souls that give you that 1% main stat, which is fantastic because there's lots of great reasons to keep doing Torghast in 915, and there's lots of good reasons to not just have to do the back and forth between those two, like, really fast respawning souls as Zoval's Cauldron, because even though they respawn really fast, there's still 20, it takes forever. Also, big buff to Soul Cinder drops. Speaking of reasons to keep doing Torghast, your Soul Cinders are going to be dropping in much higher quantities, and you can get as many of them as you want. Repeatedly clearing Torghast wings will continue to award full amounts of Soul Cinders, like forever, as much as you want, along with full Soul Ash infinitely. So you can grind out your legendaries, you can grind out your sockets if you want, and it shouldn't even take that long because they will be dropping in higher quantities. I know I'm still doing Torghast every week, at least as long as it takes me to get a Deathbound shard on each of my active mains from Adamant Vaults. I usually just run 9s or 10s, and it's exciting to think about getting full Soul Cinders while I'm doing that, to get my Conduits out of the way so I can save all of that cataloged research for more Deathbound shards. The Conduit grind feels like it will never end. Other exciting stuff from the build, Alt Renown Catchup. There's going to be an item you can purchase from a vendor for 500 gold if you are finished with Renown on your main, and you can send that to an alt to get them instantly to Renown 40. So half of Renown Catchup is just going to be done for 500 gold, which is fantastic. And then speaking of Alt Catchup, Korthia armaments will be available to purchase for specific armor slots. So you can buy specific pieces to kind of fill and cover those gaps that the random ones won't create. And I feel like I'm going to be doing a fair amount of this just because it's going to be even faster to get alts leveled in 915 as well. So more alts to level, more alts to gear. Other things this week, speaking of alts and heirlooms, actually, we now have the new heirloom upgrade items on the PTR. In 915, we're going to be able to upgrade our existing heirlooms to scale up to 60. Again, and the items that do that are on the vendor. They do cost gold. We have prices, at least initial PTR prices. These could change, although they look about right. And don't forget, though, when you're looking at this, I know it feels kind of gross, especially because it feels like, you know, our heirlooms used to scale to 60. Our heirlooms used to scale to like 120. So it feels kind of icky to spend gold to make them do it again. But remember that heirlooms don't give experience directly anymore. All they're really doing is helping feel like they scale with you, so they are convenient things to wear while you're leveling, and then they have the set bonuses that do things like reducing your rested experience consumed, but the main benefit is mostly just having the armor that scales with you. You don't really need these, and you're going to replace it very quickly at 60 anyways, so nice to have, especially if you wanted something to do with all of your gold that you were getting from callings and paragon caches and stuff, but I would say not mandatory, even if you're planning to level a bunch of alts, because while helpful, it's not like super good. This week in PTR data mining, we started to see all kinds of tier 6 armor set remasters, kind of updated versions of classic tier 6 armor sets. They're speculated to be maybe from Legion Time Walking, or perhaps they could be connected to like a potential upgraded mage tower. There's been hints of that kind of thing in the PTR data mining, but no confirmed announcement just yet. We don't know exactly what these are from at this point, but probably something like that. I guess they could maybe be new tier sets, I don't know. The originals continue to be some of the most popular transmog sets just because of the appearances and the effects and all that. So I'm sure plenty of people will be excited for the remasters, I would say. Recolors isn't quite right. They're roughly the same color, I think. I'm actually not sure about that, but they look much better. They've been updated for sure. A hotfix that went into the live game this week is Conduit Energy. It's not gone yet, it is leaving in 915, but in the meantime, it is now refilling. At this very moment, it is refilling at a rate of 10 Conduit Energy per day, up from 1. So it's not gone yet, but you have a lot more flexibility to play with and move around your conduits, just to kind of get you practiced. I don't know, just to tide us over until 915 when they take the whole system and they throw it into the ocean. We also had some dev discussion this week with Ian chatting with players on Twitter about the ripcord pulling rationale, among other things. This section right here was particularly interesting to me. He was talking about the rationale behind when they pulled the ripcord a little bit more, like clarifying what they said last time about how, now the covenants are converging, it makes more sense. He also then goes on to continue and say that lore and fantasy are important, but if they are the only thing in the way of fixing a frustrating mechanic in WoW, they will find a way to resolve that in favor of gameplay. He went on to say that that philosophy does apply to the faction divide, the Horde Alliance barrier where we're not allowed to play with each other, but with a key word being alone. Meaning here that lore is not the only reason we still have split factions. There is some other reason on top of that. Gameplay-wise, he does acknowledge that the barrier is a major issue that they know they need to address, though. We should be clear that this is Ian on Twitter, and this is not like a dev update, blue post patch announcement or anything. They're not confirming that they're, like, deleting factions or anything like that, but I'm glad that they're thinking about it, just because I feel like smoothing over or removing the gameplay faction divide in some way would be just so good for the game, and I would be so happy if that happened in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully that means good things for the future, even if it's not, like, soon. On top of that, lots of little tidbits came out from the PTR this week. I particularly liked these Covenant. There's Covenant toys in 915 that can drop from the calling caches. And the Night Fae one is this set of cosmetic wings that I think people are going to really like. Right now in the PTR, it looks like a 5-minute cooldown with a 5-minute duration, so like a permanent uptime. You could just macro into something. And while that would be locked to Night Fae at first, if you get your Night Fae renown to 80, then it would unlock account-wide for everybody. So I can see that being a very popular toy moving forward, because everybody likes wings. In my life in WoW this week, I finally got around to farming the trash items for at least one of the bobbleworm pets, and that was surprisingly fun. I was kind of into that. I was very excited when my stoppable force dropped from Botanica, despite the fact that I must have vendored like 100 of them in my lifetime, but now that I needed one, none of them wanted to drop. I don't have the Flawless Amethyst bobbleworm yet, and I am not close because I am not thoroughly trying. I'm at like 1,600 pet charms or something like that. But getting the other ones in the meantime is looking kind of fun. I've also still been grinding it out in Korthia, and I feel like the longer I spend there, the more I like it. Which sounds like Stockholm Syndrome, but I have a long track record of being annoyed by content that I don't understand. And then when I finally get around to learning it on my own terms, all of a sudden I'm having a good time. And I feel like Korthia was particularly bad for that, just because the cataloged research grind is not very obvious. Just in looking at the game without doing any outside research, it's not immediately clear all of the things that you should do to get your research every day and like how important the various ones are if you're not going to hit all of them. So I think the longer, like it took me a while to kind of get the grip of the basics of it, but I'm feeling better about it and I'm having more fun out there. At least that's what I'm saying. Those words, they sound true. That brings us to questions from this week, and the Buggy wants to know, why should I, a casual, non-raider, non-PvP, non-Mythic Plus player, care about resources like Stygia and cataloged research? I enjoy doing Korthia, but I don't see when I should spend this currency. So it depends on whether or not you want player power for yourself. There's nothing wrong with gearing up and getting stronger, even just for outdoor content. You will be more effective running around and killing things out in Korthia. So you could get your Korthian gear fully upgraded. You can spend cataloged research at the upgrade NPC to add item levels to the Korthia set. And you'll need to grind Archivist Codex ranks up in order to unlock the ability to get that all the way to tier 6. So that's one thing you can do with research. There's also cosmetics. You can get, there's a mount, I believe, for 5k research at rank 6. You'll probably have a lot more than 5k by the time you get to rank 6, but there is a mount there for that. You could spend your Stygia on getting armaments for alts if there's any alts you wanted to gear up. But yeah, there's not like a ton of stuff to buy. Rep-wise, there are also, even though it's not spending the currency, so to speak, there are mounts and pets from the Paragon caches for both Des Advanced and Archivist Codex, so that's worth continuing to do rep for if you're collecting. So there's really no harm in buying the Conduit upgrades and the socket items. You don't need them for what you're doing, but you're going to be getting the currency anyways if you're grinding rep for other things or if you're just working Korthia achievements, and there's nothing else that you could be really spending the currency on. So you can just get your Conduits all upgraded and slap some sockets on some fully upgraded Korthia gear and just be like a legend running around out there looting your mushrooms. And Sydney wants to know, will Covenant Sanctum upgrades transfer across Covenants on the same character, or will you have to upgrade all 4? Or just in general, what will transfer across Covenants when you swap other than cosmetics? So my understanding, and a disclaimer that I could be very wrong, My understanding is that Sanctum upgrades will not transfer, and you have to regrind those, and that's part of why they're making it so much easier to get lost souls, redeemed souls in 915. Being able to transfer your anima stores between covenants on the same character is also going to make it easier to catch up the buildings. And then once you've ground the buildings for one covenant, if you go back to that covenant, they will still be there. So my plan is to grind everything. The renown, which I believe you will also need to start fresh in a separate covenant, unless you've done it before on that covenant. My plan is to do renown and buildings on basically all 4, and then if I can get that done by 9.2, then I can really swap between all of them without having to do any extra work. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be wildly difficult to get those 2 things caught up with all of the catch-up measures that they're adding in 915. Adventure table followers are another thing. The covenant-specific ones you will need to recruit and level up, but the neutral ones like Meatball and Crowman you will keep. So you'll have those to help you with your missions in your new covenant. And Feronia wants to know, what made you initially try Priest as a main, and what about it has been the thing that made you stick and enjoy it so much? So it took me a really long time to pick a main. I started playing WoW in Wrath, and I did spend some time as a Priest in Wrath, but I really jumped around kind of every 4 to 6 months between classes, basically until the end of MoP, when I knew I really wanted to pick a thing to play for my guild. The thing that made me try Priest initially was I was drawn to healing because I was new to WoW, I wanted to get into groups, and I wanted it to be easier. I figured people needed healers, and I wanted people to need me because nobody was going to need my brand new baby DPS. So I wanted to play a healer, and I was confused and overwhelmed by a lot of WoW because it was all brand new. So it's kind of like walking into an ice cream shop and there's a lot of flavors, you don't know what any of them mean, and they ask you what you want and you panic and say vanilla. Priest looked like the vanilla ice cream of healers. It looked like a very classic, straightforward, no strings attached healing class, and I've always kind of liked that super sort of clean, cloth, gold sparkles theme to healing classes in fantasy games. So that was what made me initially try it, and honestly, I think the thing that made me stick with it was just, I needed a thing to play for my guild. I ended up as a Shadow Priest, and I just kind of played it long enough to get attached to it. I feel like I just like things that I've spent a lot of time with just because I've spent a lot of time with them. So I probably could have just as easily been a main in any other class, really, if that had been the one I just stuck with. And at this point, I've been a priest for so long that I just can't really imagine doing anything else. And I kind of like having that history in my head of reminiscing about, oh man, Surrender to Madness was really good in this one patch with Emerald Nightmare and the raid in that one fight, and just kind of remembering the evolution of the class through various raid tiers. I like having that cranky old back in my day woman in the back of my head now with Priest, and I feel like I would lose that if I tried to switch classes now. And that's been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have a question for one of these videos, leave it in the comments. Include the word question to help me find it. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys. Be back with another one of these. I appreciate you guys. I'll be back with another one of these next week. I will be skipping the one following that. I'm taking a little vacation at the end of September, but you got one more news video before that happens. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye. Kitty, you want to say hi? There you go.